Hey everyone, Professor Spencer here. Welcome to the endocrine system. This video will form the basic foundation for understanding the endocrine system. In this video, we'll discuss why we have an endocrine system, its basic components, what hormones are, what stimulates hormone release, and compare the endocrine system to the nervous system. The endocrine system influences many other major systems in the body, so the goal here is to break it down into simple, digestible chunks. Alright, let's get started. The endocrine system is one of the two main regulatory systems in the body. It helps to regulate the functions of growth, development, and metabolism. It also regulates blood volume and blood composition. So, for example, it can control levels of minerals in the blood, such as calcium. It also helps to regulate digestion and reproduction. The endocrine system is made of endocrine cells, endocrine tissue, and endocrine glands. The purpose of these endocrine cells, tissues, and glands is to secrete chemical messengers known as hormones into the bloodstream. Many organs have endocrine cells, tissues, and glands built into them, which gives them an endocrine function along with their main function. So, for example, the pancreas is considered an accessory digestive organ because it produces pancreatic juice that aids in digestion. However, it also has endocrine glands that secrete the hormone insulin into the bloodstream, and that gives it its endocrine function. So again, endocrine refers to secreting hormones into the bloodstream for the purposes of regulation. So what is a hormone? A hormone is a type of chemical messenger that gets released from our endocrine tissues and cells and glands into the bloodstream. When a hormone arrives at the target tissue, it binds to receptors on or inside those cells and tells that cell to start or stop some kind of action. Again, this is for the purpose of regulation and maintaining of homeostasis across a wide variety of systems. The release of hormones can be triggered by three different types of stimulation: neuronal stimulation, hormonal stimulation, and humoral stimulation. Neuronal stimulation is when the release of hormones is triggered by a signal arriving from a neuron. Hormonal stimulation is when hormones are released by the arrival of other hormones. You'll see this a lot with hormones that are part of the hypothalamic pituitary axis. Humoral stimulation is when hormones are released when a change in nutrient levels is detected. So for example, an increase in glucose levels in the blood causes the release of insulin by endocrine glands in the pancreas. Now let's compare the endocrine system to the other major regulatory system, the nervous system. Regarding cell types and their secretions, the nervous system uses cells called neurons, and these neurons secrete chemical messengers called neurotransmitters into a synaptic cleft. Whereas by now, we definitely know that the endocrine system uses endocrine glands to secrete hormones into the bloodstream. Now you might be thinking, how does a little chemical messenger know where to go? And truthfully, it doesn't. Because hormones are simply secreted from endocrine glands out into the bloodstream, they can end up in a multitude of different places around the body. For that reason, the endocrine system is known as an indirect system. The only places that these hormones will have an effect is in the target tissues, which again have receptors for that specific hormone. If the hormone ends up somewhere else, it simply degrades. At first, this might seem kind of wasteful, but let's think about insulin for a second. Insulin is a hormone secreted by endocrine glands in the pancreas when you eat food. Many of the cells in your body require insulin to intake that glucose that you got from the food. Therefore, it actually makes a lot of sense to release this hormone into the bloodstream so it can be dispersed to many different types of cells and tissues all around the body. This increases the range of the endocrine system, whereas the nervous system is limited to whatever tissues that neuron is innervating. By contrast, the nervous system is what we call a direct system, and this is because these neurons connect directly to other neurons or target cells. And this is via the synaptic cleft that we just talked about, which is a really small space. As you might expect, the actions of the endocrine system occur much more slowly than that of the nervous system. An endocrine gland might stop secreting, but the downstream effects may linger in the body for minutes to days to weeks until all the circulating hormone is used or degraded. The nervous system, on the other hand, has lightning-fast effects that occur in milliseconds. Alright, we've discussed a broad overview of the endocrine system, what a hormone does, and some major differences between the nervous system and the endocrine system. Let's recap with a quick quiz. The chemical messengers utilized by the endocrine system are called hormones. Where are endocrine hormones secreted into? The bloodstream. What do we call the cells and tissues with receptors for a specific hormone? Target cells or target tissues. The endocrine system is considered what kind of system, while the nervous system is considered what kind of system. The endocrine system is indirect, while the nervous system is direct. Which system has the slower effects with longer duration? The endocrine system. Which system's effects can reach a wide range of tissues throughout the body? The endocrine system. What type of stimulation causes hormones to be released when a change in nutrient levels is detected? Humoral. The other two types of stimulation are neuronal and hormonal, but humoral is the hardest to remember because its name doesn't make its definition immediately obvious. Alright, awesome. If some of this wasn't clear, feel free to watch it again. Learning anatomy and physiology requires repetition of these concepts, so don't feel bad about not getting something on the first try. When all this makes sense to you, move on to the next video in the series where we'll talk about the specific types of hormones.